at the Grange near Salinas.
For the Monterey Board of Supervisors, District 2. I am Mary Ellen Dick. I am the chair of the Voter Service Committee for the League of Women Voters for Monterey County this year. And with me here helping are a lot of our members of our league members and board. Ann Herndon here, Beverly Bean, who is our president, Janet G., Marilyn Maxner, Kathy Aguirres, and Brielle Bamba. And thank you. The way the forum works, so the way the league does forums is that we are going to be doing questions of each candidate. We will ask the same question of each of the three candidates. The forum will start out with a 2-minute introduction by each candidate, and then we will ask questions. One question will be asked for each one. They each get a minute for it. Then we come back and we ask the next question. We got to draw straws here, so we're going to start with Mr. Phillips, go to Mr. Mitchell, and then to Ms. Giuliotto. Did I pronounce that right? And then the second question will be started by Mr. Mitchell, and so on, so that we will keep rotating who asks first, and it'll go through the cycle. There are cards on everybody's chairs. If you would write questions and wave them, we've got people on all sides to pick them up. The way we do the questions, just so you know, is we're going to sort the questions, and first off, we won't ask any personal questions. You know, every question has to be something that all three candidates can answer and is applicable to the job of being supervisor. And so there'll be no personal attacks through. If we get 14 questions on the same topic, what we'll try and do is combine them into a question which sums it up. If we have more time at the end, then we'll go back and add additional questions. But we're going to try and get through the topics first. If you need a card, besides handing in your cards, if you need another card, wave your hand, an empty hand, and we'll pass some more cards in. So the process, the forum is scheduled to take about an hour and a half, which should give us quite a lot of time, I hope, for questions, though I know from past experience here there's lots of questions. Brielle Bamba there in the middle is the timer, and so she's going to hold up her timer as you get closer and closer to your minutes, those of you on the speakers, and then we will cut you off at the end of your sentence when you're done with your time. I hate to be rude and do it, but I wait to the end of the sentence, and then we are going to stop the conversation, because it's the only way we can get through all of the questions and make sure everyone gets an equal response to answer. Let's see, was there, I'm missing something. I'm sorry, we've asked all of the candidates not to put literature out now, but they will be here at the end to hand out literature, and everybody will be happy to talk to you, I'm sure. I think that's the main thing, so let's get started. And Mr. Phillips, would you start with your opening statement?
What do we have, a minute?
You have 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Thank you for having us, and thank you for coming to the little get-together tonight. I'm Judge John Phillips. I'm running for the supervisor. The reason I'm running, I don't have any overriding agenda, but what I want to try to do is bring some sound reason and judgment at the supervisor level, and try to make some sound decisions that make this a better place for all of us to live. I've lived here 42 years. This is where we raised our family. Someone asked if I was a local, and I said, yeah, I've been here 42 years. I remember when beaten feeds were there and there wasn't any any superstores there. We had Glenn's Market and J&R, but there wasn't much else here. This is where we raised our family. I got 2 kids that teach in school here, and we raised all our family here.
Mr. Phillips, could you hold it up?
Sure.
People can't hear you.
And I think I have a background that brings about some leadership qualities that I hope I can bring to the board. One, I was district attorney for 13 years and the assistant in charge of the office for 80 of those years. I was a judge for 21 years, and out of those 5 of those years, I was the presiding judge and started domestic violence counsel and some other things. And then for the last 10 years, I started Rancho Cielo, a project that they said couldn't be done. I brought leadership from all over the county, and we have a state-of-the-art facility where we have 130 kids on campus, 20 more than most of the lockup institutions. So I think those skills, I've seen the county from inside now, and I've seen it from the outside, and I think I can bring those leadership skills to the job as supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mitchell.
I'm retired Army Officer Ed Mitchell. I'm running for supervisor because it's time North County and North Salinas has a leader who will represent their values and their needs, who will fight for affordable and sustainable water, because water equals jobs and economic opportunity, and who will also protect Salinas Valley agricultural jobs from negative impacts from fracking should the state of California improve that exploration technology in our area. Now, the public reserves a supervisor who can, I got hand and arm signals here, who has the knowledge of the conditions and situations in North County, who has the skills to craft doable solutions, and who can forge a majority on the board that can get to taking action instead of talking about things. Now, in terms of the experience in the local areas, I've had over 23 years here working with issues with the Grange, the American Legion, the Community Alliance for Safety and Peace, and the other community organization like the Twindale Neighbors Group. Based on that background, how close am I to the issue? Well, in 1995, my well went dry, and I know that it's vital for families, farms, and businesses to have affordable and sustainable water. In terms of skills, I will apply the engineering, the management, and the integrity and government contracting that I learned at the Academy, West Point, and then applied throughout my career as an officer, combined with my private business experience of helping win thousands of jobs for workers in California in manufacturing and high technology and in other states. No more backroom deals. You deserve transparency, like when I recognized and reported to the district attorney that there was likely corruption in the regional desalination project, and which led to the sentencing of a public official and protected the ratepayers from being ripped off.
Thank you. Mrs. Giriato.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. It's a pleasure to see somebody that I haven't seen in a long time. And I'm running for county supervisor because I believe that I have experience. Can you hear me? I believe that I have the experience to work in county government. I've been a county employee for over 25 years, working both in employment training, chief of staff to the county board of supervisors, and working in the Department of Social Services as a community relations director. I also had the opportunity to go work for Governor Schwarzenegger as a 3-time appointee, working in health professions education, working in the Department of Real Estate when there was a foreclosure crisis going on, and then helping the governor set up the Governor's Office of Economic Development. I was born and raised in Salinas Valley. Actually, I was born in Salinas and raised in Castroville, and have been involved in both North County and the entire Monterey County in one way or another, whether it was finding employment opportunities, whether it was assisting families with issues that came before them, whether we were trying to promote affordable housing, whether it was trying to protect the Tivitat Medical Center and the healthcare services that we need desperately in this county. And currently, I also am in alliance with Ed in that I think it's important for us to look at protecting the water in our community for our ag industry and our hospitality, which seem to be the largest employers besides government in the county of Monterey. And I currently am involved at the state level as a representative working on the water bond. I'm a member, I'm the secretary-treasurer of the California Latino Water Coalition, so we are the group that's working with the governor right now to get the bond on the November ballot. I have been involved in other activities throughout the state, and particularly here in Monterey County, working on affordable housing. Was very involved with CHISPA and the affordable housing at Morocojo, and then also working on education opportunities, more partnerships with the county and the West Side By project. So I also was a city council member for the city of Salinas and served on many committees. And I'm here to serve you. I hope that I can count on your support on some of you, and thank you very much again.
Thank you. Okay, so the first question, Mr. Mitchell, you're going to be first. Yes. Would everybody please turn their cell phone? Somebody's just jiggled. So, and I think some of us grabbed for them. If you would just turn it off or turn it on mute, please, that would be great. If you need another card, just wave an empty hand and we'll pass more cards out. Okay, so, is that working better?
Yeah, it's our backup.
Ah, all right. That's a much louder sound. Thank
It's
you.
the way we do it here.
All right. First question, and Mr. Mitchell. So it'll go Mr. Mitchell, Ms. Giuriato, Mr. Phillips. So what do you see, and you have 1 minute, what do you see as the most pressing issue facing North Monterey County?
Well, the most pressing issue has been the same issue that we've been working on for 19 years. And longer than that, actually, but that's how long I worked on it. And that's affordable and sustainable water. Over 6 years ago, when the Regional Desalination Project came forward, North County was cut out of that effort. We were supposed to have a pipe to come up from the Moss Landing and provide water up into this area. That didn't happen. So, but the fact of the matter is places like Moss Landing and Castroville cannot do their build out without sufficient water. And there's restrictions on that right now. So in order to get that activity going on there, we need to work on getting water. Now there's a couple of ways of doing it. Some are cheaper than others. One is to build a reservoir at the headwaters of the old Merritt Lake, which is over by Queen of Heaven Cemetery, and pump winter water over there and store it. It's cheaper than desal, or go to a fair and open competition for desalination somewhere in North County and not do it the way the county did previously.
Thank you. Ms. Giuriato?
I strongly agree that water is the biggest, is it too loud? No. Water is the biggest issue facing North County. You have had problems in the past with nitrates, you have had problems with the intrusion of the salt water, and unfortunately, from the Board of Supervisors perspective, there's been a strong interest to address water issues and working with the legislature for the peninsula, and North Gon is kind of the forgotten community. And I would be very committed to working on trying to address the water issues that we face here in North County. Because the reality is North County is a large ag industry, and it's an industry that provides a lot of the strawberries, as well as the artichokes, which we all know artichokes is a state vegetable. And it's real important that we continue to provide water resources for our industry, as well as for our community, as well as for further development. So I am fully in support of addressing the water issue. Thank you.
There's several issues, I think. Have a safe community, I think is paramount, and it's hard for us to do very much if we don't have a safe community. I agree, water and roads are a major concern here in North County. Desal is not the answer, and I don't know, ultimately it's the most expensive water you can ever get. We spent a fair number of years letting people build their houses here without really scrutinizing how their well was and how many people were on their well. And so it's a difficult problem for us to face. Some people have good water, some have impacted water. Some well systems have 20 people on it like we do, some have 64, some have 2. But it's one we're gonna have to work on. We're gonna have to bring groundwater. We're in 2C and we can bring groundwater here, and it's a lot cheaper than ever trying to go desal.
Thank you. All right, well, the second question is a follow-up on water. So it is what, and Ms. Giuriato, you'll be first, what plan would you have to get the water here?
Well, first of all, we have to look at what's going to happen with the water bond. Besides the water bond, there has been discussions here in the county about what the water needs are, but there has not been a very proactive engagement of the community. And I think if we're going to look at setting up some type of system, we have not brought all our community members from North County, from Salinas, from Moss Landing, Pajaro. We have not brought them all together to discuss what are really the issues that we're facing with water. If you talk to the Latino community, they are not aware because they're your workforce. They go out there and they work in the fields and they know that they have to harvest and do everything else. But are they aware that there's a water issue? No, they're not. And so I think it's at the point where we have a large community, it's very diverse, and it is critical for us as representatives to ensure that we get the input from all of them before we talk about a plan, or that I tell you that I have a plan, because I would never do that without engaging the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips?
The people that are working and I met with a lot of them, and most of them are in agriculture, and what they're trying to do is get the river channel cleared out for one thing, because it's consuming 52,000 acre feet of water every year with the growth that's in the middle of the river channel. And then there's a proposal, because with the permit that they have to work on, they have to provide an influx to do something about seawater intrusion. And doing that, they have to bring water to the east side and to Castroville. And if they do that, and with the rubber dam, the way it's been working, obviously it's not this year, but it's been working in the past, it's making an impact on seawater intrusion. And when that water comes down here, then if we can capture that groundwater, then we have to do the expense of bringing it over to Castroville and then on to Prunedale.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell?
First and foremost, it requires a supervisor that stands up and says, we've got to work this issue, and it's the most important one. And that's why it's the most important one on my list of the 3 things to focus on. For the easiest way is what the problem repeatedly has been is storage. It's a problem throughout the county. And that's why a surface reservoir in a place that isn't affecting fish or anything, like over by the Queen of Heaven Cemetery, which was part of Old Merritt Lake. Now there's another part of it which is farther towards Castroville. The studies have shown that there's about 44,000 acre feet a year that could be stored, and it can be acquired at a cheaper price than desalination. That would also place a pressure body, a body of pressure on for the seawater intrusion. The other way is go fair and open competition and go for a lower cost desalination, which is the process the federal government uses many times. And that can get you cheaper water than what has been done with the regional desal project.
Thank you. All right, so the next question has to do with sort of how you are going to get things done. So what is, and Mr. Phillips, you're first. What is your experience in building consensus and getting people with different opinions to agree?
Well, when I was a judge, you didn't have to get different people to agree. But having said that, I resolved 90% of our cases by getting the people together and to work on a resolution. I think Rancho Cielo probably speaks as well as anything about it, because everybody said we couldn't do that. And some people have been up there now and been up for dinner and seen what we've been able to do, and it was everybody coming together. Some people I'd put in prison, developers, ag people, people from the culinary committee, all coming together to say, let's do something rather than locking up the kids. Let's turn them around. It's the thing to do for our economy, but it's a thing to do for families. And I think I brought everybody together to make it work, supervisors and other people. I think I can do the same thing on the supervisor level.
Thank you.
Throughout my military career, we've worked on organizations, whether they're international or government business, in terms of bringing groups together to work as teams. Secondly, I've been trained as a facilitator and worked facilitating groups and acquiring contracts for years, where we have hundreds of people that have to come together and work on a short timeline and be brought together towards a common goal, and then deliver that product on time and under budget. Done that for years. Many of you in this room have worked with me as we've worked together on things in this area. I've been a community organizer for years, where you see an issue, you have the vision, to believe something needs to be done. You take that to other people, you form up, such as what we've done with ProtectSalinasValley.org. It's an organization that's working on the issue of fracking. We're taking an ordinance and we have it in front of the Board of Supervisors already. You have to have a good solution and then you work the solution.
I have been building consensus my entire life, but in particular after having worked as a member of the Salinas City Council, it was imperative that I built consensus, and the consensus was not just between us as council members, but actually reaching out and working with the County Board of Supervisors. Because my district happened to border along the West and Northridge area, so maybe you're familiar where Northridge Mall is and where Costco and everything is. I was part of the consensus building to get us to do an amendment and to basically trade off land with the city of Salinas. And it was a bit contentious because there were members of the council that were not interested in doing that. But ultimately we were able to build consensus because we saw the common bond in that we were going to provide more jobs, it was going to build our businesses, we were going to attract hopefully new stores and so forth, and the ag industry was able to get the south part of Salinas where they already have all their ag industry out off of Abbott and so forth, and they were able to build and expand, and that's where you see Diorigo and other businesses going up. And if you can think about what can be more difficult than having agriculture and business and two competing entities coming together, I was involved in, and I was directly, and I worked directly with Lou Calcagno. Thank you.
Mr. Phillips? Did you, oh, you started?
I started.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, so I just, right. I just wanted to remind the audience that every question we ask, as you can tell, is going to be asked of all three questions. So if you can, all three candidates. So if you could make sure you remember that when you ask your question, make it broad enough that everyone can hear it. Thank you. So anyway, next question. And Mr. Mitchell is starting. All right, there is a lot of concern about the safety of the local surface roads if the SR 156 toll road is implemented. What would you do to address that, or how do you want to respond to that question?
Well, we've been working on addressing that for several years. In fact, the Grange studied it, as the Grange has done for a long period of time, for 85 years, on local issues. We took a resolution to TAMSI. I went to 4 separate meetings with them. We've been trying to get them to respond to North County's issues and concerns. The problem with the design right now is that 30% of the traffic is going to flow to the side roads, and TAMSI does not see the side roads as being part of the solution. So they're going to be transmitting a traffic problem from one road into other neighborhoods. That's not appropriate. Prunedale Preservation Alliance, remember that? We ran a survey. We took the survey results to the TAMSI, and 84% of the people don't accept that as being safe for them. I'll work on that, and you cannot have the Prunedale, Oak Hills, and other areas being treated poorly for the peninsula. You have to have someone who stands up and represents our neighborhoods, and let's create a fair deal.
Thank you. Ms. Giriato?
I would strongly work closely with the state of California, because ultimately Caltrans is directly involved, and a lot of the work that has been done locally, it's been with TAMSI and the Board of Supervisors, but it's really at the point that if we're going to address the surface roads, and we have to ensure that we're meeting the needs of the community, and I have traveled every weekend, and I know how you're impacted here. And so I think it's important that if we want to ensure that we have the revenue coming in from hospitality industry and our agriculture and people getting to and from work, that we're going to have to take it to the next level, and that's taking it to our legislative bodies of the state of California. Because ultimately, they're the ones that work with the governor, and Caltrans is the one that makes those final decisions. We could sit here and meet forever and ever and do studies, but unless we take it to that next level, we're not going to be able to address it. Thank you.
Okay. Just one comment. I got a question here. TAMSI is the Transportation Authority of Monterey County, for those of you who don't know.
Ready? We have to do something about 156. I'm not in favor of a toll road unless we can't find any other alternative for it. But 156 is 25% more dangerous than any other road is supposed to be. My kids live in Oak Hills. I have to decide whether it's Saturday or Sunday, which way we're going into it. So we all know we got to do something about it. And it looks like the bypass may be the best solution. The question is, how do we pay for it? And I think we have to have our voices heard about how we pay for it. Do we have sales tax? Do we try to get money from Sacramento? Do we have a combination of those things? Do we have a partial toll where the local residents and the local truckers are exempt? But we have to work on the problem. After we've gotten Crazy Horse and Blackie and some of the other ones, this is the major problem for us. And it's a Monterey Peninsula problem, but a lot of our people work there too. So it's a concern for all of us.
Thank you. All right, question number 5, Ms. Giuliotto, you're going to start. Do you support a fracking moratorium in Monterey County? Why or why not?
Yes, I do support fracking moratorium. I think that there has not been enough analysis done. Other communities that have fracking going on, like in Texas and other locations, are seeing problems. There was just a $2 or $3 million lawsuit that was given to a family for the effects that they had from the shale, from the air quality and what's happening to communities and so forth. So I think that at this time it's important that we really look at what are those impacts, and we also happen to live in one of the most pristine and beautiful places on earth. And so do we want to jeopardize this beauty that we have for gas when there are other options available or other locations? So at this time, no, I don't support it. Thank you.
Mr. Phillips.
I don't know anybody in Monterey County that really supports fracking. And I do it, I mean, it's being dealt with at the state level, but and I think the county supervisors are bringing it on where any issue involving fracking has to go before the planning commission and then to the board of supervisors, obviously. But my concerns are how much water is being used, what chemicals are being put in there, what's being disposed of that water, where is it going, the impact on the groundwater, and of course in an earthquake area like ours where we have faults, I think it's way too dangerous to ever try it without a lot more information than we've had.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell.
I've been working fracking for 2.5 years. I'm the only one up here who's actually taken any action about it. And we've worked with several of you that have joined Protect Salinas Valley. One of the conditions that may happen, is very likely, is that whether or not a majority of this county wants fracking or not, it may be forced upon us by a decision at the state level. And so sitting around and being concerned about it's nice. Taking action and protecting neighbors is more important. We have generated, where I worked in San Benito County, we brought over that ordinance, modified it for the unique environmental and economic conditions of this county, drafted a ordinance and have been walking it around and sharing it with people and asking them to become involved in this, and that includes the Farm Bureau and others, in order to get something that will work. And that is a condition of, and their ordinance is coming forward in front of the Planning Commission this week. And I and other people will be working on trying to get protections for people when we need them, and we are the last defense at the county level.
Thank you. All right, next question, and Mr. Phillips, you're first.
I am.
Do you support the Monterey Downs development on Fort Ord? Why or why not?
I can't say. I think when Fort Ord went out, everybody fought to keep Fort Ord here. And out of the 28,000 acres, I think 4,000 acres are set aside for development, which I think Seaside and Marina is entitled to some extent if they can deal with the water issues. But Monterey Downs, it hasn't even been through the EIR process, and whether it's too big to fit with our county, whether it's environmentally friendly enough until the EIR process is completed. I don't know how anybody can really say whether they're for or against it until we take a look at everything. So as soon as the EIR is done, I take a look at it.
Thank you.
Monterey Downs is an example of the process that one of the reasons why I'm running is because the process the county has been using for its land development has been harmful to the county. It's slowed us from getting jobs. It's slowed us from getting development going on. With Monterey Downs, there was no fair and open competition. It's county property, the majority of it, and you can do, and that's one of the things a person who's been around the country and seen other solutions. That's county property. We could have ran a fair and open competition and called for bidders. We could have established the conditions for the type of architecture and zoning that we wanted, and then got the best competitor who can substantiate that they can deliver their financing. The process in Monterey County too often has been, oh, there's only one person in the world that wants to buy land near the ocean in California. That's not true. That's the process of too much backroom deals, and that harms us getting production of development on Fort Ord.
Thank you. Ms. Giuliano?
I support Monterey Downs tentatively right now as a concept because as you're aware, there hasn't been an EIR done. However, I do want to state that it's important that we be real careful about what we turn away when there's opportunities for jobs and there's opportunities for tax revenue to come into the community. And you know what'll happen is that eventually, if it doesn't get support, it's going to turn into a more referendum. We're going to go out for a vote, and all we do is we keep prolonging opportunities that come to us. So at some point, we really have to decide as a community, what is it that we want for our community? Because our community is going to continue to grow. Every day, children are being born at all our county hospital and every other hospital. And in 3 years, they're in preschool, and in 5 years, they're in kindergarten, and it just happens quickly. And we need to have jobs for our community. We need to have jobs that'll go to the next level so that people have an affordable and they have a living wage. Or we're going to have a larger disparity of those that have and those that do not have. And all the questions that we're receiving is about water and about development, but nobody's talking about human issues. And I'd like to see at what point am I going to get a question about the social injustices that happen here and the human issues that our communities face. Because we have a workforce that basically is the workforce that brings tax revenue into this county. Thank you.
Okay. Now, next question, and Mr. Mitchell's going to start. And yes, there are questions coming up. This question, however, is should new subdivisions be approved for North Monterey County?
Well, we've already got a community area that's been approved in the Castroville area. We've got lots of records that's already been approved. We need to have the water to be able to let them be built out. There's no restrictions in terms of, there are housing, it's available, it's in the general plan. We pounded on it for years to get it to happen. So yes, we need to get the construction trades moving, and that's why I keep saying that if we can get water in North County, then we can stimulate those jobs and get the development going on. That's the whole reason why the water ties to your jobs. It ties to issues like on the Community Alliance for Safety and Peace. We've seen a doubling, if you want to talk about personal impacts, we've seen a doubling of homeless people in this area. Homeless people need a steady job, not just a high-paying job, but a steady paycheck coming in. We need the supervisors. We're still in a recession, and we need to help the people get out of it, and the way the county can do that is help stimulate the economic activity.
No, Ms. Giuliano's next.
Sorry, the question?
The question is, should new subdivisions be approved for North Monterey County?
Yes, that we should approve them if they've gone through the direct process that we basically, follow all the rules and regulations and that we have the water. Because without the water, we're not able to really build anything. And also, are they going to be environmentally friendly? Are they going to be, homes that are going to be homes and multi-unit family housing that's going to be something that's supportive and that is also, good for our families? Not to put them in high-density housing or housing that later on they don't reflect what the intent was. So I'm hoping that there'll be support for further housing because that is a major issue that we have. We have been out of compliance with our housing element, and now with the loss of redevelopment money, we don't have the resources as a county to continue to do housing development projects. So it's up to us for the private sector to come in and develop something. Thank you.
Mr. Phillips.
According to the Monterey General Plan, we're pretty much limited to a lot of record out here in North County, and so I think development is a little tentative at this point in time, and I think it should be until we make sure it complies with the general plan and we make sure that we have adequate water. But when we're talking about water, there's that the bottom line is you can't have development without water, and there's a fair number of people and groups that try to slow down getting water at the right place because they know no water, no development. I agree. Jobs are a key, and we need adequate housing for a lot of our workers, especially our farm workers. And so some of that in Monterey County, but we got to make sure we do it the right way rather than how we've done it for the last 3 decades.
Okay, next question. Ms. Giotto, you're starting, and it is, what solutions would you support to deal with homelessness in the area?
I was the county's homeless services coordinator for several years, and actually was the first one to create a homeless needs assessment survey, which with that survey and the data, we were able to bring in over $11 million to Fort Ord to build all the different units that you see out there. So there's several, if you go through several sections of Fort Ord, you'll see transitional housing for homelessness. There's a major project called Pueblo del Mar, where we work closely with the Housing Authority, Drug and Alcohol Prevention and Social Services, and we place moms in recovery with their children. It's a model program that's done nationally. So in terms of homelessness, there are a lot of opportunities out there. The federal government is looking at putting out more resources. I happen to serve on the Homelessness Council at the US level, and there are going to be a lot of opportunities for grants that we will be able to apply for, and it's basically going to take the County of Monterey working closely with the different communities that are being affected by homelessness. Thank you.
I'm sorry. We'll stand up together.
There's a number of projects that's going. Interim does an excellent job. The bottom line is you're always going to have some homelessness. I'm on the Community Foundation, and we come up with this thing of this money that we had a match from federal grant because it was going to do away with homelessness forever and ever and ever. And it just said, I'll put the money in there, but it's just not going to happen. Some people are dealing with mental health issues and various other things that you're just not going to do it. But having adequate housing and interim is one of them. We're right now at Rancho Cielo, we're building 5 houses for at-risk kids where we can get some kids out of East Salinas. The kids are actually building the houses. 30 kids will be able to live there and get out of East Salinas and some of the other areas which aren't safe for them.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell.
As a director on the Community Alliance for Safety and Peace, one of the things we look at is at evidence-based approaches. And what that whole group is trying to do is to reduce homelessness or crime, and we see it all over. One of the biggest problems is numbers, is quantity, is reaching out to more people, not 5 or 6 or 20 or 30, but hundreds and thousands. And the fact of the matter is, the one fastest way to help our lower portion of our society is to get jobs, is get the economy going. It's the biggest engine there. There's great things like the Community Foundation. There's people trying to reach out and help individuals. But it really has got to be bigger than that. There's not enough money that the county can cough up, or individuals usually cough up, that can handle the size of the problem. We've got to work to get jobs going, construction trades, and a steady, as I said before, a steady wage for people helps them stay off the street.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips, to start. It appears there's been an increase in crime, shootings, gang activity, personal attacks, lawlessness in the last 10 years. What can be done to turn back this trend?
Well, I'm not sure there's been an increase, but in the last 10 years, but it hasn't subsided. And I've been in this business one way or the other, either as a prosecutor for the last 42 years. And some of these kids really don't have a fair shot where they come from. And you got to give them something that builds their self-esteem. One of the things that does it, once they get past that and they're in the criminal arena, when I first came here, we hardly ever saw a juvenile with a gun, and they're too plentiful these days. One of the things that works is a job. Job training and vocational training is the one thing that works for getting these young kids. We work with the police department, we work with the probation department, I think you need a multi-approach to do it, and you have to start younger. You got to start before they get to Rancho Cielo. You got to start when they're 6, 7, 8 years old, Girls and Boys Club, things like that.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell?
One of the things that I said when I first stood up was, in my opening comments, is you need to know the conditions of your local area. From talking to police and from the information that's been brought before the CASP, the crime situation has changed as follows. Of known identified gang members, it went from 10 years from 1,000 to 6,000, and within Salinas from 500 to 3,000. You yourselves have seen the crime impacts in Monte del Lago, where we've had increased crime, burglaries, and also in North County where we have increased burglaries and the meth houses that are out here. Now we've got two ways to go after it. One is prevention. CAS works on that. This is the slow seed where you plant and you wait for like a tree to grow, and it's the right thing to do. We need reinforcement. But right now we have an epidemic. We have to, the county should step forward and help fund community protection teams and fund 6 to be dedicated for speeding in neighborhoods and local crimes and burglaries.
Thank you. Ms. Giuliotto?
Dealing with crime and lawlessness is a difficult situation, but it is something that can be done. And through the years, I'm going to go back 25, 30 years, we had the Violence Injury Prevention Program, the mayor had her Partners for Peace, we've had Second Chance, we've had a myriad of different programs out there, and the reality is many times a lot of them were duplicating their efforts. So we were spending the same money on the same people. And what we need to do is we need to come up with a program that is a reflection of what we actually need, and that there's one fund and that we're working all together on it rather than duplicating our efforts. There are funds available. When I was on the city council, we were able to get gang prevention task force money. Both the sheriff and I and several other council members went up to DC and brought in the first monies that came in for gang prevention. And unfortunately, we have also been like #2 in the nation for gang activity. And so we need to change that image as well. And it's going to take jobs, it's going to take increasing their education, it's going to take early intervention. And that means working with them at the youngest age possible, because a lot of them are left alone. They're latchkey children.
Thank you. All right, the next question is going to change to your backing. So the question is, and Mr. Mitchell, you're first, how much of your campaign funding comes from sources outside the county?
None.
Okay.
But if any of you are outside the county, please send money to Edmonton. I'm hunting for it. I wish I could find it there. I'm very proud that I have over 140 people and organizations that have donated to me, and that they understand that the only thing that the money is paying for is that they have a candidate that represents their values and will stand up and hold, and in county business, that people get treated fairly, that a small group of people does not take advantage over a large group of people because of closed room deals. And we've seen that locally here when we had the missing water tanks in Pasanti that put 400 families at risk, so the subdivider could still sell his homes but didn't hook up the water to the homes. That is not fair.
Thank you. Ms. Giuliotto.
My money is local money as well, including my own personal money. So I strongly believe that the issue of transparency has become very blatant in Monterey County, and particularly with our Board of Supervisors and our County Council. And so we're at the point now where we have to ensure that we don't belong to anybody. And when I say we, I mean we as an elected official. That we don't take the interest of that they want and that they want us to move forward instead of the interest of the entire community. Because the reality is we have 400 and something thousand people here in Monterey County. And that's the interest that I intend to serve, not the first 10 people that gave me a ton of money. Thank you.
I could do with a ton of money. I think I maybe got $1 or $2 $100 checks for some buddies I was in the Army with that sent some money and felt sorry for me. I've had over 350 people who have made donations to my campaign, and I tell everybody, any place I go, I make no commitment to what I'm going to do when I am a supervisor if I'm elected. I think it's important not to make any commitments to anybody, no pledges to any group or anything other than you're going to make the best decision you can, just like when I was on the bench, and always make the decision for the right reason.
Thank you. Okay, next question, and Ms. Giriato, you're going to start. And that is, in this farm country, to what extent would you focus on protecting and preserving prime farmland?
In this farm country, which we have prime ag land, I would work on it 100%. The reality is we have, again, as I said, some of the most beautiful land that's available in this country, and we actually export, tons of fruits and vegetables to the entire world. We are the major food line going out to entire countries, and we also have a large workforce that's dependent on it. And we for a county system are dependent on the tax revenue. I mean, we're talking about roads, we're talking about infrastructure and the needs that we have, but we can't have that if we don't have our agriculture industry going at full throttle. So I will do everything possible to protect our ag land. I don't think that there's anywhere else in the nation that has the type of ag land that we do, because even in the Central Valley, they have ag land, and they consider themselves number one. Well, I still say we are. But they also have major water issues, and they have air quality issues. We're fortunate that we don't have major air quality issues. We're fortunate that we have a system here that's monitoring that and that protects that and protects all of us and our children.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips.
I think it's critical that we preserve and protect our farmland. Agriculture is the #1 industry. I've been endorsed by the Farm Bureau. I recognize how important it is, and this is the easiest place in the world to be an environmentalist. I mean, we have to protect the farm land, and we have to protect the beautiful areas for tourism. Those are the only two major industries we have, and that's why it's so easy to be protect the environment and make sure any industries that come in don't infringe and fit with our county, but don't impinge on agriculture.
As I said, I've worked 23 years on local issues, so I don't come to this game not having worked this issue. We've worked it previously with Yes on A, where the California State Realtors pumped in a whole bunch of money to the team that was saying, well, they were protecting farmland. And we worked on that issue to ensure that the farmlands weren't subdivided down into small lots. Rancho San Juan, we got 70, we had to do an initiative to protect the land over here in, near the cemetery. We won 75%, it was a super majority, and we had 100% of the precincts that voted with us to protect. Right now, Protect Salinas Valley, working on fracking. It's going to be the biggest industrialization of farmland in this county. It's been that way across the west. That's trying to protect the whole valley. I'm in this game. I've been in the game to protect the agriculture, and I'll continue to be in it.
Okay. Next question. Wait, it goes to Phillips. Next question.
You're in charge.
I know. It's all right, but it's important to make sure I stay on top of it too. All right, the next question is, in county budgeting, if you were elected, to what extent would you emphasize human services versus law enforcement?
I don't think you can. Our budget's what? The general budget's $540 million a year, and we're spending some of that on. Some of that's going to be on a new jail, a new juvenile hall. I think the total of that is going to be. I forget how much the county. About 9 plus about 27 million of that is going to come for our portion of what we have to come up with for the new jail in the juvenile hall. But I don't think you can separate them. I think you have to have human services. You have to get and reach the kids. A lot of them are coming in families that people are raising some kids that shouldn't be raising kids, and we have to get in and intervene early. But you have to have a balanced approach with that and law enforcement.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell.
It's not just this year, but it's also the next 4 years, and what can we do across that time span? We're facing two issues at this time. The difficulties at the lower end of our community and crime. And additionally, we have an epidemic in crime breaking out. So the question is a very good question, because you're looking at how do you make the decision, how do you act as Solomon and you pick either the families or the police protection. And that's a tricky one to do. I believe, though, that there are some near-term things that we can do. I do believe the county can cough up $800,000 to get 6 more boots, that is 6 more officers on the ground, and get them dedicated to neighborhood issues and crimes in that area. But we're going to have to be smart on crime in terms of our money, so we get more technologies and Intel Fusion Center working with our officers in order that they can handle that part of the job and then try to save money for the families.
Thank you. Ms. Giotto.
I think it's real important that we balance both. For the public safety piece and the human services is real critical. On the human services, though, we have to ensure that we are looking at all the services. We're looking at the wraparound. What does the family need as a whole? What are the different services? How do we partner with the different agencies that are out there? There's a lot of nonprofits, and in some cases there may be some duplication of efforts, or there may be some entities that are getting more money than others, when in reality some of the others have more of a direct link to the community and to the families that are being affected. And so it's going to be important that we assess where we put the money and where is the best bang for our buck. You know, putting more boots on the street is great. You know, when I was on the city council, everybody was always talking about public safety, and our officers. Well, the officers eat up 80% of the budget for the city of Salinas. And just to give you an idea, the revenue for the city of Salinas for that 80% comes from East Salinas. That's where the tax base is from. So here we have all these officers, and they're getting paid out of East Salinas, but they're not getting the kind of protection that they need. So I think we have to be very, very strategic about where we're going to put our money, and at the same time ensure that we don't impact our human services.
Thank you. That went up just in the middle of the sentence, so you're good. All right, next question, Mr. Mitchell. We never hear any discussion of luring high-tech industry to Monterey County. Is there any hope of that? What could be done?
Well, actually, there is, the main effort's been brought forward by Deepwater Desals, talking about cooling down internet transmission centers. It has been for a long period of time an area where high tech has not been lured in. There is one area where they're trying to, there's an activity going on right now, which is to try and get Silicon Valley to bring high technology to the farming area. It actually is a high-tech business in itself. That hasn't been producing anything. From my standpoint, I believe that a green enterprise, we have an enterprise zone in Castroville, I believe that a green enterprise and desal technology could be pushed here, solar plant in that area. It's tough to bring it in here, and I would like to see the FedEx be brought in to fly out of this airport, taking our world-class crops to Hong Kong.
Ms. Giotto.
I have been having discussions with some of the Silicon Valley companies, and they're interested in doing some stuff with us. They're well aware that there was some discussion around ag technology, and there was the whole energy car, the green car or go car, whatever it was. But they're looking at more of a monumental type of thing in terms of what can they do, where can they use their assets best. And some of the companies like Google actually allow their employees to work on special projects. So employees work there 4 days a week, and that 5th day they have to work on a community project. So there are some individuals that I'm meeting with to see what is it that they can work with us on, as well as trying to tap into their CSR, their community responsibility money, where they actually have to give back into communities. Because unfortunately for us, Cisco was interested in us 25 years ago, and the mayor was not interested in moving forward with that, and so we lost that opportunity. Because we technically could have had Cisco here. So now we have to look at what can we bring into our region, because we need those high-tech jobs. We need opportunities for our youth. I'm sure some of you have grandchildren or children that have wanted to come back into the community and can't find a job.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips.
As Mr. Mitchell said, the David Amarnosco and the Deepwater Desal is exploring bringing such a group down here. The other one that's really exciting is that they're working at is the Steinbeck Innovation that Bruce Taylor, Luann Meter, Mayor Donahue are working about bringing high tech down to work and explore the opportunities of partnering with the ag community to really do some really impressive innovations. So that's something I think has been in the works for a year or two. They're looking for where they're going to house the project, but it's something that I think has a lot of potential, especially with the Salinas revitalization that's occurring.
Thank you. Ms. Giriato, next question. On any given day on San Miguel Canyon, there are 16, 18, and 24 wheelers rushing by at 60 to 65 miles an hour, if that's slow, on their way to Salinas or to Watsonville. Bicycles, pedestrians, walkers, and riders on the side of the street, even near their own driveways. What can be done about this dangerous condition?
Well, part of the solution has been dealing with the new, infrastructure that's being done. But the reality is that it's got a way to go. And again, that would not have occurred if TAMSI had not been working closely with Caltrans. And I go back to, we need to work closely with Caltrans. We need to make them understand that this is a priority area. And that this is a priority area because it is an area that is, has commuters going through in and out with ag industry, but it also has people coming in and families for the hospitality industry, on top of all of us driving and our children to school and so forth. And so the discussions with Caltrans have not been as strong as they could be because people have tried to keep the power and the structure local. But we're at that time now where we have to let go and say that we're the power as a county board of supervisors, and that it's time for us to reach out to the state. Because one of the things that happens in state, city, and county government is that there's all these hanging on to, this is my turf. And just like you see the turf wars happening with the kids, you see that in government. And so when it comes to the safety of our community, we've got to stop those turf wars.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips.
Dealing with Caltrans can be difficult and frustrating, and I agree. When they did the San Miguel, they opened up a lot of the traffic coming from Watsonville. Maybe that'll get a little bit better with San Juan opening up. But the one thing I do think we need is a signal at Castroville Boulevard and San Miguel. I think that will help a lot, and I think we need it.
In this building just about a week ago, several of you witnessed me talk to the sheriff about just this issue and what we asked for, because speeding in Monterey County is not just up here. It's in Middlefield, it's in Creek Bridge, and it's because the police have been pulled off and the sheriffs have been pulled off. And we ask them at least to do some spot safety zones where you are watching for speeders, because it's a real problem down San Miguel. Secondly, be nice to have that stoplight there. And right now, TAMSI is coming up here and talking to us. They're not talking with us, and they're not working on solutions that we've brought forward to them or adapting, because on the Highway 156, the toll road, and I've asked it multiple times, they are not funding that stoplight. That's how far they are away, and they're not taking care of our safety problems. There are specific things, and you need a supervisor who knows what can be done and will step in there and say, work with me and quit talking at me.
Okay. Mr. Phillips, how do you feel you will work with the other supervisors? It takes 3 votes to get something done. Will you be able to bring the folks together to get the other at least 2 members to join you?
Yeah, I think I can build a consensus, and I've done that, and I've worked with every supervisor there. I've been recently endorsed by Simon Salinas. I worked with Armenta. He helped develop the ranch. Simon Salinas, Lou Calcagna were the first board members I had on the ranch. I've worked with Jane Parker, and she's come up and worked with us at the ranch and had dinner. I've worked with Dave Potter, and he's a friend, and we work together. So I don't think so. I'm not going to follow them. I hope to provide some leadership so we can get some consensus, because, as you said, it takes 3 supervisors to get anything done.
The word consensus means everybody gets along on that, and I don't think we need that. And in fact, how's that work for Monterey County? A lot of times it's brought forward bad decisions. First and foremost, you need someone to offer up a better solution. And I've been in step on many issues with the public For example, on Fort Ord, where 17,000 votes were gathered against a zoning issue in 3 weeks. I was with that group. I talked to them at our kickoff for that. That shows how far the Board of Supervisors oftentimes get out of step. So there may be non-consensus issues going on, but Jane Parker's endorsed me. She and I, on things like the hospital, I believe we're tracked together. Fernando Armenta, I want to work with a family field house and the indoor soccer facility, but make it better and have the county support it, working with Armenta. So I think we can there are other issues on farm. I'm pushing for the ministerial approvals for building down the valley. I think Simone Salinas is there. I think there's 2 easily there, and the 3rd can be gathered. That's all we need, 3 votes. Let's change the Board of Supervisors.
I've been working with all the Board of Supervisors for the last 25, 30 years, and in different capacities, whether it was as a staff member, whether it was as a city council member, building consensus on issues, even though I was still a county employee. But in my role as a council member, we knew where that balance was and where I had to take decisions and build consensus with them. And then working at the state level and coming back and bringing in resources and getting them involved, and as well as being proactive and encouraging them to get up to Sacramento and be involved in some issues that were affecting our community or that was potential funding for our community. And so there's a lot of areas where we do actually have the same agenda in terms of the public, but then there's areas where we have differences. And so it's how do you balance those differences to make sure that we address the needs of the community. And so I can be an independent thinker, like I always have been, and I also can build the consensus. I will not be anybody's person that I have to follow what he or she tells me to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Mitchell, how would you deal with the removal of the vacant buildings, vacant structures on Fort Ord?
Well, let me start from, if I'd won last time, I've been working on this issue, but I didn't. One of the things that the FORA program didn't do was talk about small business. They could have went in there and had a 4-year no rent situation. Overall, the way they went about doing the application, they didn't. What I come back to is what I learned in the federal government. Fair and open competition, you put it out there for a bid, so when somebody says they're going to do development, it includes they're going to have to do the cleanup. So that's part of the process. So now we got FORA that's working down the path that it's going, and it's not following the zoning that was agreed to for that area. And that's why we've had these land fights, because the county hasn't been living up to the contract that they shook hands with the Sierra Club and the rest of the cities and the public with. So now we're going to have to go back in there and ensure that if the developments get going, they clean them up.
Ms. Giriato?
Fort Ord is at the same time that it's a gem for us, it also has a lot of issues, and the ordinance that's out there has been an impact in terms of development and so forth. But at the same time, through consensus of many cities, we've been able to do some very proactive and creative stuff. The university, all the different institutions that are out there, the Veterans Transition Center, now the cemetery and so forth. So there's a lot to be done out there, and I think we have to be very careful about what we take down and what we're going to do there. Because at the same time, there's a lot of beauty out in Fort Ord. And it's sad that it got closed, because it was one of the largest military bases in our country, and had a lot of value, but for political reasons it was taken out. And so we need to be proactive about what we're going to do with it and make sure that we engage the community, engage the public and the cities, and that we work together with them, that the county does not act as the institution that can make change. The other thing is there is a body, FORA, the Fort Ord Reuse Authority, that has a representative from every city, and so it's difficult to be able to do that anyway.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips?
It's not easy to tear down those buildings. Initially, everybody thought there was maybe a cheap, inexpensive way to do it, but they're full of lead paint, they're full of asbestos, they're a mess, and you have to be able to pay to do that. And that's why the developers are required to pay a fee in order to get the structures cleaned up and get them demolished. And that's part of the process of doing it. And I think working with, and the other thing is we're trying to do some work programs to get low-income people into work to go in and do the demolition at a low cost. So those are some of the issues.
Thank you. Mr., you're next. One. Oh, no, it's the next question. I'm sorry. Each of you has talked about jobs and the need for them. What would you do first to bring jobs? And Ms. Giuliotto, you're first.
I would first look at what has been looked at as options of jobs to bring to our region, and then see where we have gaps, where we have gaps in terms of possible opportunities, because we are the leading ag industry. So do we have enough refrigeration? Do we actually have packaging? I'm aware that for the strawberry companies, both of our major companies, both Driscoll and Nature Ripe, they buy their packaging from Mexico. All the products are made in Mexico and then they're shipped over here. So why aren't we having those products made here? Why do we not have turned into one of the empty plants that we had and actually have packaging done and have 300, 400 jobs for our local people? And then there are other agencies, other ag industries that are doing the same. So at the same time, you know, they're saving, being cost effective in terms of a wage because the person earns $6 over there. But the reality is at the same time they benefit from the tax revenue and the tax credits that they get for the employees. So we need to come to the table with them. We have to have a come to Jesus talk about what's in the best interest, because we're trying to support them for infrastructure, roads and all that. But we need them to support us for jobs as well.
Thank you. Oops, Mr. Phillips.
There's, ag is a big part of our community, and there's a lot of ag jobs that are going unmet. And our high schools, I think, have gone the wrong way. They've completely eliminated vocational training, and hardly anybody gets vocational training. And that's one of the things we really have to work on to get the kids educated to the various things that's needed in agriculture. And I think we went the wrong way. East Campus, I don't know how many of you have been to East Campus. It's one of the most beautiful facilities you're seeing, but we're not getting as many people there to train for jobs because no shop teacher is